The bank alert flashed. $0. My hands shook as I stared at our son's emptied college fund. 6 years of savings, gone. Then I saw the credit card charges, luxury hotels, first-class flights, all while my 10-year-old sat doing homework, unaware his future had been stolen. When I called my wife, her phone went straight to voicemail. Again. That's when Jason looked up from his Legos and said, "Don't worry, Dad. I fixed it." His smile was calm, too calm. And that's when I realized I had no idea what my son was truly capable of. The coffee machine's arthritic wheeze marked another dawn in our dying marriage. Steam curled toward the nicotine-stained ceiling tiles I'd been meaning to replace since Jason was born. Laura stood frozen by the refrigerator, her French-tipped nails denting the yogurt cup's foil lid. 12 years of watching her make breakfast, and I'd never noticed how her shoulders tensed at exactly 6:17 a.m., like she was bracing for impact. "Dad." Jason's voice cut through my fog. He nudged the homework sheet toward me, his pencil leaving no smudges on the paper. "You're holding it upside down again." At 10 years old, his patience had taken on the quality of a disappointed professor. The math problem swam before me, something about dividing fractions. Jason's solution was already written in that unsettlingly perfect penmanship, the numbers marching across the page like obedient soldiers. Rain whispered against the bay window where Laura's reflection used to dance while she sang along to the radio. Now she haunted that space, her iPhone burning a hole in her apron pocket. Last Thursday, I'd caught the tail end of a hushed conversation. "Won't suspect a thing. Soon." The way her body curved around the phone, the secretive dip of her neck. I hadn't seen that posture since our first illicit dates in college. Her recovery was flawless, just confirming my highlights with Gina. But the crumpled salon receipt in the trash that evening bore a bright red canceled stamp. Jason's knee connected with mine beneath the kitchen table, a calculated nudge. Mom forgot the permission slip for the planetarium. He said it lightly, but his eyes tracked Laura's movements with the cold precision of a surveillance camera. I reached out to ruffle his hair, still fine as duckling down, but aborted the gesture when he subtly leaned away. There was a time when that would have sparked peals of laughter, not this measured half-smile that never reached his sea-glass eyes. The garage became his kingdom, where neighborhood kids displayed skateboard scars. Jason's arms bore faint burns from soldering irons. I'd find him at midnight elbow-deep in disemboweled electronics, the acid tang of flux clinging to his pajamas. "Mr. Thompson's extra credit," he'd explain, not looking up from the circuit board. One sleepless night, I caught the glow of his laptop screen, painting his face an eerie blue. Lines of code cascaded across his glasses until he sensed my presence and snapped the lid shut. "Pre-algebra homework," he said, with Laura's exact vocal inflection when lying about girls' nights. Then came the digital breadcrumbs. Laura's phone lighting up on the nightstand at 2:17 a.m. DM, pack light, tickets confirmed. I constructed elaborate rationalizations. Her sister Diane's new boyfriend, Mark. Maybe a surprise trip for our anniversary. The fantasy shattered when I found the airport parking stub in her winter coat pocket. dated the same Tuesday her book club supposedly ran late. Beneath it, like a punchline, was a receipt for $287.46 at the Melting Pot, our anniversary restaurant, for a romantic fondue package 2 weeks prior. The timestamp showed she'd been there during Jason's parent-teacher conference. Jason knew. I'd catch him observing Laura with the detached interest of an entomologist studying a pinned specimen. His silence, during her increasingly elaborate excuses, was more damning than any accusation. Then came the afternoon I overheard him murmuring behind his bedroom door. Southwest Terminal, 3:15 departure. Yes, the black suitcase. When I entered, he was alone, methodically assembling a Lego Death Star. Practicing my student council speech, he explained, his fingers never faltering on the plastic bricks. The ease of the lie chilled me more than its content. The erosion accelerated. Laura's signature Chanel No. 5, now masked by something darker, sandalwood and deceit. Her walk-in closet developed bald spots between blouses. Yet every night, without fail, she'd press a kiss to Jason's forehead, her diamond wedding band glinting in the nightlight's glow. That was the cruelest paradox. How effortlessly she could play loving mother while methodically dismantling our lives. The night before the financial apocalypse, I discovered Jason in the garage, hunched over a device that looked suspiciously like a police radio jammer. "Science fair prototype," he said, wiping solder residue on his Star Wars pajamas. Behind him, the whiteboard I'd bought for multiplication tables now displayed a chilling flowchart. Red yarn connected sticky notes labeled joint accounts and offshore options. At the top, in Jason's precise block letters, Operation Asset Recovery. Below it, Laura's name circled 3 times like a target. "Your mom's under a lot of stress," I offered weakly, the excuse tasting like ash. Jason regarded me with the pitying stare usually reserved for his slower classmates. "She's currently experiencing 32,000 feet of stress," he corrected, tapping his smartwatch. The GPS map showed a blinking dot over Lake Michigan, heading northwest. In that moment, I saw the man my son would become. One who could dismantle lives as easily as the Raspberry Pi computers he rebuilt for fun. When our alarm shattered the silence at 5:30 a.m., Laura's pillow held only the ghost of her jasmine shampoo. Jason materialized in the doorway, fully dressed, 2 Pop-Tarts in hand. "You should check the college fund today," he said, and the absolute certainty in his voice made the kitchen tilt. As I reached for my phone, his small hand closed around my wrist with surprising strength. "Wait for the notification." His smile was a grim slash in the dawn light. "You'll want to be sitting down." The coffee machine sputtered its last breath into the carafe. Somewhere over Wisconsin, Laura was fastening her seatbelt, while our son methodically consumed his strawberry pastry, counting down to detonation. I stared at the homework sheet on the table, that perfectly solved math problem swimming in my vision. Jason had known the correct answer before I'd even read the question, just as he knew exactly which gate his mother was boarding at. Just as he knew the $87,000 we'd painstakingly saved for his future would vanish at 9:03 a.m. CST. And the most terrifying realization of all, he'd allowed it to happen, not from helplessness, but with the strategic patience of a chess master sacrificing his queen. The garage whiteboard's final quadrant held the truth in dry erase marker. Phase 3. Let them burn. The notification chimed right on schedule. The coffee machine's dying gurgle was the last normal sound I'd hear that morning. The bank alert burned against my palm, those 3 zeros searing into my skin like a cattle brand. Across the breakfast nook, Jason studied me with the detached focus of a chess grandmaster observing a doomed opponent. A thin smear of strawberry jam glistened at the corner of his mouth, the only hint of childhood left in him. Call your mother. The words tore from my throat raw and splintered, tasting of copper and betrayal. Jason's fingers danced across his tablet with practiced ease before spinning it toward me. The grainy airport security feed showed Laura at gate B12, her new Louis Vuitton carry-on, purchased last Tuesday while I was at Jason's soccer game, stuffed with my grandmother's heirloom pearls. The departure board behind her head screamed Cancun in cheerful yellow letters. The timestamp burned itself into my retinas, 9:03 a.m., right about the time she should have been chaperoning Jason's field trip to the planetarium. My vision tunneled. How long have you been? 72 days, 14 hours. Jason's voice held the clinical precision of a coroner dictating an autopsy. He pulled up a spreadsheet that made my stomach lurch, color-coded columns, tracking every withdrawal, every lie. She initiated the first transfer exactly 17 minutes after Damien's passport photo was approved. A few keystrokes revealed the document in question. Damien Cole's smirking face beneath Department of State seals. That same smirk I'd seen in Laura's phone background last month when she claimed it was just some actor from that show she liked. The granite countertop shattered under my fist before I realized I'd moved. Pain rocketed up my arm, but the physical agony was nothing compared to the numbers still screaming from the screen. $87,463.21. Our son's entire future reduced to a negative balance. Jason didn't even blink at the blood dripping onto his math homework. He simply opened a banking app I'd never seen before and tapped Recover Assets with the casualness of ordering pizza. The error message hit like a gut punch. Account frozen by court order. Federal investigation. #44,791. Jason's left eyebrow twitched, the only crack in his armor. That's unexpected. For the first time since he was a toddler, I saw genuine surprise flicker across his face. Then the landline shattered the silence. Mr. Walsh? The woman's voice could have flash-frozen hell. Detective Bryson, Financial Crimes Unit. We need to discuss your wife's involvement in Damien Cole's offshore investment scheme. Jason was already 3 steps ahead, his fingers a blur across the keyboard. Damien's LinkedIn profile materialized. The slicked-back hair, the custom suit, the wolfish grin that had apparently been laughing at me for months. Beneath it, an Interpol red notice. Wanted for cross-border securities fraud. $12.7 million diverted. My knees gave out. Dad. Jason's hand clamped around my elbow with terrifying strength for a 4th grader. Listen carefully. The Southern District just got a seizure warrant for all marital assets. His other hand brought up a live feed of our mortgage lender's database. They'll padlock this house by sunset. The walls pulsed like a failing heart. Laura's voice echoed from some happier time. It's just a tiny loan against Jason's fund. We'll replace it before graduation. I'd believed her, because the alternative meant the woman who'd held my hand through 2 miscarriages was capable of. Jason's laptop snapped shut with the finality of a guillotine. "We have 6 hours. He tossed me a burner phone already displaying a live GPS map. A crimson dot pulsed southbound on I-55. Damien's black Mercedes, according to the license plate recognition software Jason had somehow accessed. He's got Mom's passport and the last $200K in a duffel bag. The phone vibrated with an incoming message. "Damien, change of plans, Hermana. Meet me at the Matamoros safe house instead. Told you we should have left the kid." The blood drained from my face. Matamoros, where U.S. law enforcement jurisdiction dissolved into the dust of the Rio Grande. Jason was already packing a black duffel with stacks of cash, protein bars, and... Was that a handheld signal jammer from his science project? Wait. I grabbed his arm, feeling the wiry muscle beneath his Star Wars pajama sleeve. "You're 10 years old." He fixed me with those unsettlingly ancient eyes. "And you're still in stage 2 shock, denial mixed with impaired judgment." The duffel's zipper screamed shut like a battle cry. "Decision time, Dad. Call the cops and lose the house, the car, and any chance of recovering Jason Walsh Jr.'s college fund." He tossed me a set of car keys. "Or get in the damn minivan so we can intercept them before the border." The garage door groaned open on its rusty hinges. Outside, Mrs. Henderson's Ring camera turned its unblinking eye toward us. Jason flashed a smile that was all Laura, the same crooked grin she'd given me at our wedding reception, and tapped his watch. "Clock's ticking. Every minute puts them 40 miles closer to permanent immunity." He hefted the duffel bag onto his small shoulder with a grunt. "Oh, and Dad?" That smile turned razor sharp. "Bring your passport. We might need to make an unscheduled international withdrawal." The minivan's engine screamed like a wounded animal as we careened down the interstate. Jason's small frame silhouetted by the glow of 4 separate screens. His fingers moved with the precision of a concert pianist, each keystroke pulling another thread from the unraveling tapestry of our lives. The scent of burning rubber and fear filled the cabin, mixing with the acrid tang of Jason's soldering iron. He'd been modifying some device, even as I'd peeled out of our driveway. "Take the next exit," Jason murmured, his voice eerily calm. The GPS tracker on his primary screen showed Damien's Mercedes maintaining a steady 87 miles per hour, now just 38 miles ahead. A secondary display cycled through traffic cameras, giving us glimpses of Laura in the passenger seat. Her normally perfect hair disheveled, fingers worrying at the straps of the designer purse she'd bought with our son's tuition money. I barely recognized my own hands on the wheel, knuckles white, tendons standing in sharp relief beneath skin gone waxy with shock. The speedometer needle trembled at 98 miles per hour, the minivan shuddering like it might disintegrate at any moment. Jason adjusted his earpiece and spoke into the burner phone clipped to his collar. "Thermal scan confirms 2 human signatures plus 1 canine in the target vehicle." My head snapped toward him. "Since when do we have thermal imaging?" Jason didn't look up from his screens. since I repurposed the infrared sensor from our old baby monitor. His matter-of-fact tone sent a chill down my spine. The Chihuahua's body temperature is elevated, 103.2 degrees. Stressed. The radio crackled to life with a police bulletin about an armed financial fugitive heading south toward the Mexican border. Jason immediately jammed the signal with a device that looked suspiciously like our old garage door opener, filling the car with static. On his tablet, a map of southern Illinois pulsed with red dots, every police cruiser within 50 miles, their movements tracked in real time through some unholy hack of the state trooper dispatch system. "We can't outrun them and the cops," I gasped, swerving around a lumbering semi-truck. Jason's fingers flew across a keyboard. "We don't need to." The dashboard tablet split into quadrants: traffic camera feeds, satellite imagery, a live microphone feed from Damien's car, and most chilling, Laura's frantic voice pleading, "You promised we'd be together. You said the money was just temporary." Damien's reply came through crystal clear. "And you believed that?" The sound of a sharp slap, then Laura's choked sob. Jason's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, the only sign he'd heard. A new alert flashed on Jason's main screen, encrypted messages between Damien and someone called El Jefe, discussing delivery protocols and border crossing points. My stomach lurched as I realized this wasn't just about stolen college funds anymore. The duffel bag in Damien's trunk likely contained more than just cash, passports, possibly drugs, maybe even... Jason's tablet pinged with a new message from Damien's phone. "Ditch the liability at Effingham. She's drawing heat." The blood in my veins turned to ice as Laura's face appeared on the feed, her perfect makeup streaked with tears as she read the message. Jason's fingers froze for the first time since we'd left home. "Dad." His voice cracked in a way I hadn't heard since he was 6. "We need to choose now. Recover the money or save Mom. We can't do both." The highway signs blurred. Somewhere ahead, the woman who'd held my hand through 15 years of marriage, 2 miscarriages, and Jason's terrifying bout with childhood pneumonia was realizing she'd been played. The numbers screamed in my head. $87,463.21. Jason's future, our life savings. The college fund we'd started the day we brought him home from the hospital, back when Laura's eyes still lit up when she looked at me. Jason's small hand covered mine on the gear shift. His palm was damp with sweat. "Your call." The truck stop outside Effingham materialized like a mirage, flickering neon signs illuminating Damien's Mercedes parked haphazardly by the diesel pumps. Through Jason's drone feed, we watched the scene unfold with horrifying clarity. Damien hauling Laura's suitcase from the trunk and hurling it onto the cracked asphalt. Laura clutching that ridiculous designer dog like a lifeline. Her mouth forming words we couldn't hear but could easily imagine. Jason's tech gave us front row seats to the moment Laura finally saw the gun. Her face went slack with terror as Damien reached into the hidden compartment, the polished metal glinting under the sulphurous lights. Time seemed to slow as Laura stumbled backward, the Chihuahua slipping from her arms in a flurry of high-pitched barks. I was out of the minivan before conscious thought caught up, my body moving on some primal protective instinct. The night air smelled of diesel and impending rain as I sprinted across the parking lot, my broken hand throbbing in time with my hammering heart. Behind me, Jason remained eerily calm in the passenger seat, his fingers dancing across devices like a maestro conducting an orchestra. Chaos erupted when Damien spotted me. The gun barked once, twice, bullets whining past my ear as I dragged Laura behind a rusted fuel pump. The Chihuahua vanished into the darkness, its hysterical yapping fading into the night. Some distant part of my brain registered Jason's voice through the earpiece. 30 seconds. Then everything went black. When the emergency lights flickered back on, Damien and the money were gone. Laura trembled against me, her expensive perfume overwhelmed by the stench of fear and spilled gasoline. The only sound was Jason's calm voice in my ear. Eastbound on County Road 1200, tracking. His tablet displayed a new signal moving rapidly away from us. The LoJack tracker Jason had somehow embedded in the cash bundles. Then came the real shock, a live feed from Damien's own phone camera, showing him frantically tearing through the stolen money, unaware Jason had hacked his device and activated its camera. "Watch," Jason whispered. On screen, Damien suddenly froze as his phone began playing an audio file, Laura's voice from months earlier. "I don't care about the paperwork, Damien. That money is Jason's future." The recording continued, damning in its clarity, as Damien's face twisted in realization that this was being streamed directly to law enforcement. The final act played out with terrifying precision. Damien hurled his phone against a tree just as Jason triggered the Mercedes' automated emergency beacon, broadcasting its location to every police frequency within 200 miles. Through the drone's cameras, we watched the car swerve violently as Damien tried to disable the system, then accelerate toward what he thought was freedom. Unaware, Jason had already alerted Border Patrol. Back at the police station hours later, the revelations kept coming. The college fund withdrawals had been funding something far darker than we'd imagined. Laura, now in cuffs, was both victim and unwitting accomplice. She genuinely believed Damien's lies about high-yield investments. And Jason had known everything for months, letting it play out just long enough to gather irrefutable evidence. The most chilling moment came when a stone-faced FBI agent slid a file across the interrogation room table. Page after page of Jason's digital footprint, accessing Interpol databases, hacking federal systems, even researching legal emancipation for minors. The final page showed a screenshot from 3 months prior, a search for minimum age to open Swiss bank account. Outside the interrogation room, Jason sat perfectly still in a plastic chair, coloring with crayons an agent had given him. When our eyes met through the glass, he held up his drawing, a detailed map of Mexico with a red X over Matamoros. The unspoken message was clear. He'd planned every move long before today. Maybe even wanted Damien to run. As they led Laura away, her tear-streaked face turning back for one last look at our son, Jason finally broke his silence. He pressed his small hand against the glass and whispered words that still echo in my nightmares. "Now we're safe, Dad. I fixed everything." Then he went back to coloring, the crayon moving in precise, methodical strokes, as somewhere south of the border, Damien Cole learned what happens when you steal from Jason Walsh. The fluorescent lights of the police station buzzed with the persistent, maddening whine of a mosquito trapped in a jar, their harsh glow bleaching the color from everything it touched. I sat frozen in a molded plastic chair that still retained the warmth of some previous occupant, staring at the mountain of paperwork that documented in sterile bureaucratic detail how thoroughly our lives had been dismantled. The documents spread across the scarred metal table formed a kind of archaeological record of betrayal. Bank statements with suspicious withdrawals circled in red. Surveillance photos of Laura and Damien at restaurants I'd never heard of. Phone records showing calls made during times she'd claimed to be at book club or yoga. Jason perched beside me, his sneakers dangling a good 6 inches above the linoleum, the tablet in his small hands emitting a soft blue glow that reflected in his wide, unblinking eyes. The FBI agent had said they would need to confiscate it as evidence, but 3 hours later, no one had dared to actually take it from him. On the floor near his swinging feet lay the crayon drawing he'd made while waiting, an eerily accurate map of the Mexican border with a precise red X over Matamoros, now partially obscured by the tread marks of some harried officer's boots. Across the room, separated by a waist-high divider and the gulf of everything that had happened, Laura sat slumped on a wooden bench in the holding area. The silk blouse she'd put on that morning, probably imagining her triumphant escape to some tropical paradise, was now wrinkled beyond recognition, one shoulder seam torn where Damien had apparently grabbed her. Her usually immaculate makeup had melted into grotesque streaks that followed the tracks of tears down her hollowed cheeks. The diamond tennis bracelet I'd given her for our 10th anniversary, purchased after 6 months of working weekends and eating ramen to afford it, still sparkled cruelly under the fluorescent lights as she worried it around her wrist in a nervous, ceaseless motion. Every few minutes her red-rimmed eyes would dart toward Jason with a look of such primal, desperate longing that it made my own throat constrict painfully. Special Agent Morales, a heavy-set man with the tired eyes of someone who had seen too many families implode, slid another manila folder across the table toward me with a sigh that smelled of stale coffee and nicotine gum. Forensics pulled these from Damien's iCloud backup, he said, tapping a glossy 8x10 photo of Laura laughing over a flute of champagne at some dimly lit bistro I'd never seen before. Her smile in the photo was the same one I'd fallen in love with in college, only now it was directed at a man whose hand rested possessively on the back of her neck. The timestamp in the corner showed my birthday last year, at exactly the time she'd claimed to be stuck at work finishing a big project. For what it's worth, Morales continued in a voice that suggested he'd given this speech many times before. She genuinely didn't know about the trafficking operation, but the embezzlement. He let out a low, humorless whistle. Your kid's evidence trail is tighter than anything my forensic accountants could put together. Jason didn't even glance up from his tablet, where lines of incomprehensible code scrolled by at dizzying speed as he systematically dismantled Damien's cryptocurrency wallets, one by one. The numbers in the corner of the screen ticked upward with ruthless efficiency. 87,463.21. 87,463.21. 92,118.76. 104,255.39. Each digit a brick in the invisible wall that now separated the people we'd been that morning from the hollowed-out shells we'd become by nightfall. The rhythmic tapping of his small fingers on the glass screen was the only sound in the otherwise silent interview room. The station's front door burst open then, admitting a gust of humid night air that carried with it the distant wail of sirens and the acrid tang of diesel exhaust. Two federal marshals, half-dragged, half-carried, a handcuffed Damien between them, his designer shirt torn open to reveal an elaborate tattoo of a scorpion that I'd never seen before, writhing across his heaving chest. One eye was swollen shut, and a thin trickle of blood had dried at the corner of his mouth. But that same predator's grin still twisted his lips when his gaze landed on Laura's hunched form. "Well, if it isn't the happy family," he sneered, his voice hoarse from shouting. A fresh droplet of blood welled up from his split lip as he spoke. "Mommy's little hacker saved the day, huh?" His bloodshot eyes locked onto Jason with an expression I couldn't quite parse. Something between naked hatred and perverse admiration. "Kid, you've got serious talent. Shame to waste it on these losers." Before I could even rise from my chair, Jason was on his feet, a small, slight figure who barely came up to Damien's waist. The entire station fell into an eerie silence as my 10-year-old son stepped forward with the calm assurance of a prosecutor about to deliver a closing argument. "The FBI now has the passwords to all 7 of your offshore accounts," he said in a clear, carrying voice, utterly devoid of emotion. "Interpol seized your Panama properties at 4:37 p.m. Eastern Time." A faint, chilling smile played at the corners of his mouth. "Oh, and El Jefe. He's apparently rather upset about the wiretap recordings we forwarded to him. Something about you skimming from the shipments." Damien's face went slack with shock, his remaining good eye widening until the whites showed all around. The marshals had to grab his arms to keep him upright as Jason turned on his heel and returned to his seat, that ghost of a smile still lingering as his fingers resumed their methodical dance across the tablet's screen. What followed was a kind of grim, clinical dismantling of all the lies we'd lived with for who knows how long. Laura accepted a plea deal. 3 years for wire fraud, with Damien's testimony keeping her clear of any involvement in the trafficking operation. The morning they transferred her to the correctional facility, Jason handed a guard a sealed envelope containing a single handwritten page. He'd never told me what he'd written, but the CO who delivered it later confided that Laura had broken down completely upon reading it, sobbing so violently they'd had to put her on suicide watch. Damien got 25 to life after Jason's meticulously compiled evidence exposed not just our embezzled college fund, but his entire criminal enterprise spanning 3 countries. The day of sentencing, exactly $104,255.39 reappeared in Jason's college account. The original amount, plus what the DA called aggressively calculated interest. The FBI, after extensive debate, offered Jason an official consultant position to begin on his 18th birthday. They returned all his confiscated devices with a post-it note stuck to the laptop that read simply, Stay out of our servers until then. Morales. Our house, the one Laura and I had painstakingly renovated during her first pregnancy, the one where we'd brought Jason home from the hospital, the one where I'd imagined we'd grow old together, never felt the same after that. The spaces she had filled with her vanilla perfume and half-completed craft projects became voids we tiptoed around like unexploded ordnance. Jason converted her walk-in closet into a server room within a week, the racks of blinking network equipment humming ominously where her dresses and shoes had once been neatly arranged. One rainy Sunday afternoon about 6 months later, I found him dismantling the garage whiteboard where Operation Asset Recovery had been meticulously plotted. In its place, in his precise block letters, was a new heading: Father's Retirement Fund Project. Phase 1. Compound interest calculations complete. Phase 2. Begin 2025. Projected yield, 7.2% annual ROI. When I asked what this was about, he just gave me that small, enigmatic smile and said, "Everyone deserves a second chance, Dad." But the way his fingers lingered on the word phase made me wonder whether he was talking about my financial security or something far more unsettling. The moral of our story isn't about justice or revenge, though both were certainly served in ample measure. It's about what happens when love curdles into cold calculation, when the person you'd willingly die for turns out to be someone you don't recognize at all. Some nights, when the house is too quiet and sleep won't come, I lie awake listening to the servers hum in what was once our marital closet, staring at the ceiling and wondering, did Jason truly save us? Or did he simply outmaneuver everyone, including me, in some vast, incomprehensible game whose rules only he understood? The college fund's balance continues to grow at an almost alarming rate. The house is preternaturally quiet, save for the constant whisper of cooling fans and the occasional beep of Jason's devices charging. And my son, my brilliant, terrifying son, smiles at me over breakfast each morning with eyes that seem to know everything and reveal absolutely nothing at all. Perhaps that's the real uncomfortable lesson here. Some equations solve themselves in ways we can't begin to anticipate. And no matter how much money you recover, some losses defy quantification entirely. The numbers may add up, but the human cost remains forever incalculable. 3 years have passed since that night at the police station, yet the echoes of Damien's handcuffs clicking shut still reverberate through our lives in ways I couldn't have imagined. The money returned, every cent plus interest, now sits in an investment account so meticulously managed that Wall Street quants would weep at its perfection. Jason's Father's Retirement Fund Project has already yielded a 22.3% return, though I've never touched a penny. The numbers on the statements might as well be in a foreign language. They stopped feeling real when I realized what we'd truly lost to recover them. Laura was released 6 months early for good behavior. She sends postcards sometimes, never with a return address, always postmarked from different small towns. The last one showed a sunset over Lake Michigan. The message just 3 words. He was right. I keep them in a shoebox in the attic where Jason's baby clothes used to be. He knows about the box, of course. He knows everything. But this is the one subject we never discuss. The FBI made good on their offer. Jason turned 18 last month and now spends Tuesdays and Thursdays consulting at their cybercrimes division. Agent Morales tells me he's their most effective analyst, though the older agents flinch when he walks by. Last week, I found a classified folder left carelessly on our kitchen counter, a test, a warning, detailing Damien's prison transfer after someone, somehow, leaked his cooperation agreements to certain inmates. The report noted his new identity would be compromised within 72 hours. Jason was making pancakes when I read it, humming a Taylor Swift song Laura used to love. Our house has become a museum of absences. The master bedroom is now Jason's coding lab, its walk-in closet housing servers that maintain a constant 62.4 degrees Fahrenheit. The garage whiteboard tracks 7 separate projects in color-coded detail, including one mysteriously titled Grandmother's Garden Rehabilitation, with completion dated next spring, the month Laura's parole restrictions lift. Sometimes I catch Jason staring at it with that same calculating look he used to give math problems, his fingers twitching as if typing invisible keys. The moral reckoning comes in quiet moments. When I notice Jason's hands have developed the same calluses mine had at his age, but from typing rather than throwing baseballs. When I realize he's never brought a friend home, though the school says he's popular. When the quarterly statements arrive showing our net worth has doubled, and I feel nothing but a vague nausea. Perhaps the most unsettling revelation came last month, when I finally worked up the courage to ask why he'd let events unfold as they did. Jason didn't look up from his laptop, where he was monitoring 3 separate cryptocurrency markets. Statistical certainty, he said simply. There was an 87% chance Mom would have returned if we'd stopped her at the airport. A 43% chance she'd have done it again. His eyes flickered to the family photo on the mantel, the one where Laura's smile still reaches her eyes. This way had the highest probability of permanent resolution. The numbers, as always, were flawless. The human cost remains unquantifiable. So I leave you with this question. When justice is served with mathematical precision, when every variable is accounted for and every outcome optimized, what gets lost in the rounding? We recovered every penny plus interest, but at what annual percentage rate of the soul? Jason's spreadsheet says we're winning, but late at night, when the servers hum their constant hymn of efficiency, I lie awake, wondering whether we might have been better off just letting the money go.